Books! We are reading them now. My name is GiBi, this is Ozzy, Toto's not speaking to me, and welcome to the Horror Homestead. This is a video and an ongoing series I'm making where I'm talking about the Fazbear Fright series of FNAF anthology novels. In each video, I'm going to summarize, analyze, and theorize about one story in the Fazbear Fright series. I'm currently a believer in the Frights fiction fan theory, which states that each of these books is actually an in-universe novel published by Fazbear Entertainment. Welcome to the final canon book in the Frights timeline. I say canon because I'm not entirely sure how to differentiate, the different timelines, the different continuities here. Originally, this was the final book in the series. It was book number 11. This is the last one. Not all the Fright stories can possibly be canon to one another. For example, in Into the Pit, the MCI takes place in 1985, but then in Coming Home, it takes place a year before the story takes place, in which there's smart TVs and computers and stuff. So while the Stitch line, which is the series of interconnected stories that run throughout the entire series, are connected to one another, some of the outlier stories aren't. The next book, the 12th book in the series, Felix the Shark, isn't even connected to the ones that aren't connected to the Stitch line, and also the Stitch line is not in the game's continuity. So I guess what I'm saying is, what separates these 11 stories from the 12th story is that these 11 stories are Frights fiction. None of them happen in the game's timeline, but they're things that are actually published by the Pizzaplex in the games. Whereas the 12th book, Frights the Sharkman, is not canon to Frights fiction the fan theory, because that book is not even canon. It's not even book canon. So this is the last book that includes Frights fiction evidence, and we'll talk about it as we go. Prankster, the story we're talking about today, is the shortest Fright story in the entire saga at only 42 pages. Most stories are 80 to 90. This is half the length of a normal Fright story. It was written by Ellie Cooper, and we're now going to begin the summary. Jeremiah is a 22-year-old video game developer feeling a lot of burnout. The company isn't doing great. The boss is never in the office, and they were just bought out by Fazbear Entertainment to make their new VR game. He kinda wants to leave, but if he leaves, he might lose Hope. The H is capital in Hope, because Hope is the name of a girl. There's only 3 of them in the office. There's Jeremiah, Hope, and Parker. Jeremiah likes Hope, but he hasn't told her yet. Parker is kind of annoying. One morning, Jeremiah takes a sip of his coffee, but it tastes really disgusting, so he spits it out. Parker starts laughing, cause it was a prank. He was pulling a prank on him. He actually filmed him. He put apple cider vinegar in his coffee. Hope laughs about this too, which is really rough, because now Jeremiah feels embarrassed that the girl he has a crush on was laughing that he totally got pranked, bro. Hope shook her head, but she was smiling. Parker, you're terrible. Her sweet tone didn't sound negative, though. It was as though she liked that he was terrible. Parker filmed the prank on his phone and then shows it off to them. Jeremiah is upset, and Parker's like, yo, all the guys on YouTube are going to think this is hilarious. And then Hope takes the phone and deletes the video. Jeremiah appreciates this. Hope then gives him a peppermint to get the taste of apple cider vinegar out of his mouth. He would rather take her hand than the mint, but he knew that wasn't what she was offering. Thanks, he said again. He popped the mint into his mouth. It was sweet, like Hope. This man's down bad. Jeremiah looked at Parker's grinning face. His large, almost unbelievably white teeth. There were something childlike about him, mischievous but not malevolent. Hope shook her head, smiling. He's such a little boy. I was just thinking that exact thing, Jeremiah said. This fact made him feel strangely happy. He and Hope were so compatible, they even thought alike. Down bad. Jeremiah goes home to watch an action movie on the television. He fantasizes about being the main character. And I like that this is a vehicle to tell us he was not a man of action. He was the kind of guy who sat passively and watched the action unfold in front of him on a screen. If you've ever heard the phrase show don't tell in regards to writing, it's complete BS. Total garbage advice. It is a useless rule to follow unless you know how to follow it and when to break it. And if you're an amateur writer who's trying to hear advice, hearing advice that's only useful, if you're not an amateur, is not very helpful. Show don't tell is for important aspects of a character that you want to highlight. If you want the audience to feel something in your book, or your movie, I guess, you need to put them in the shoes of the protagonist. But sometimes, you don't want the audience to feel something, you just need to give information. If everything was shown but not told, all books and movies would have horrible pacing. You need to tell sometimes. Not everything is as important as a character's main trait. He was not a man of action is a perfectly fine thing to just tell us and then move on from. Show don't tell is one of my pet peeves because stupid critics will use it to nitpick exposition even if exposition is being used perfectly valid in a book or movie, because it is perfectly valid to have exposition. This scene is bad because it's telling and not showing us something. Yes, because the thing it's telling and not showing us isn't as important as the thing it's showing us and not telling us, and you have to have both, otherwise you're gonna have the slowest, most boring movie ever made. Good use of telling, Ellie Cooper. Jeremiah is upset that Hope doesn't like him. She laughs at Parker's jokes, which makes him feel envious. That night in the shower, he's thinking about what he can do about his circumstances, and he thinks to himself he's just gonna double down on being a nice guy. Parker is a jerk, but Jeremiah is nice, and like his mom always said, niceness is what counts. He goes into the office the next day. Hope is already laughing at another one of Parker's jokes. I do not envy Jeremiah. His entire sense of happiness and being seems to be based on if this girl notices him, and that sounds exhausting. Pay attention in this next section to how much his mood goes up and down based on his interactions with Hope. Hope knocks on his office door. This makes him happy. She asks him if he wants a sandwich because she's going to go buy some. He's even happier that she thought of him. Then it continues. Corned beef on rye with extra mustard, tortilla chips, and pickle on the side, Hope asked. Was it pathetic how his heart leapt, hearing that she knew his sandwich order? You know me too well, he said, smiling at her. It's the only kind of sandwich I've ever seen you eat, Hope said. Sorry I'm so predictable. Jeremiah felt suddenly sure he was the most boring person in the world. No wonder Hope preferred the loose cannon that was Parker. Hey, predictable can be nice sometimes, Hope said. In an unpredictable world, it's nice that a corned beef sandwich will always make you happy. You're what would make me happy, Parker thought. Ellie, this is so real. This is hard to read. I hate this, which is obviously intentional. This is one of the best pieces of characterization we've gotten in a long time, just because I feel like I know Jeremiah, and it's only been like 10 pages. I hope it gets better, and this isn't just completely abandoned as the story goes on. Ha ha ha. They go to the break room and eat the sandwiches. Parker asks if they watched the new episode of Kingdom of Bones. Hold on. Game of what? What is it called? Kingdom of Bones? This is not the same Game of Thrones parody we've read in these books before. I'm like 99% sure it was in the Flesh, which was also written by Ellie Cooper. I'm gonna go get the books. I remember the first day that these arrived, they were shipped to my house, and I sent a picture of it to one of my friends, and she responded, she's like, "You're really gonna read all that?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I'm actually gonna read it 2 or 3 times and make 35 hours worth of video on it." What is In the Flesh in? What book is In the Flesh in? Can you guys tell me so I don't need to flip through all these? Is it Blackbird? I think it's Blackbird. In the Flesh is the best book on the earth. Is it in Bunny Call or am I wrong? It's in Bunny Call! See, what I'm doing is In the Flesh, which again is also written by Ellie Cooper. They're like, I'm gonna go watch... Again, it was like Kingdom of Bones or something, which is obviously supposed to be Game of Thrones. But it was not literally Kingdom... Like, it was different. What I'm saying is it's a different Game of Thrones parody, and I need to find it. Scott Cawthon is the greatest writer on earth. He makes Tolkien look like a worm. So here we go. Rain of Stones. While sitting on the couch watching an episode of Rain of Stones, Jason had recorded on the DVR. So, again, same author, Ellie Cooper, what are you doing? Why do you have Rain of Stones in one book and Kingdom of Bones in another book? If you're gonna be... I guess if it was like Andrea Wagner and Ellie Cooper who wrote them differently, then like, okay, you don't coordinate what you're calling your Game of Thrones parody in the FNAF universe. But you can't just, like, have them be the same, even though you're the one who wrote both of them, Ellie Cooper. I think it's funny that her go-to, like, writing crutch is like, what would people be watching on television tonight? A Game of Thrones parody, that's what it would be. And she didn't notice that she did it twice. Okay. Anyway, Hope doesn't watch Kingdom of Bones because it's too violent. Parker makes fun of her because she's probably just a girl who likes rom-coms. Jeremiah's mouth then starts to burn because Parker put a spicy chip in with his regular chips. Oh my god! Hope gets mad at him for pulling this prank. Jeremiah is upset because his mouth is burning, and Parker laughs about it, saying, "You know my motto, no regrets and no apologies." Then he leaves the break room. Hope asks Jeremiah if he wants to go home for the day. It's a spicy chip, dude, get over it. Jeremiah says no. Once he's working, it will distract him from the pain. I like that about you, Hope said. I've often thought about putting a sign on your desk that says, "Do not disturb, genius at work." So Hope thought he was a genius? Jeremiah was pretty sure he was blushing. Or maybe it was just leftover heat from the chip. "Oh, I don't know about that," he said. "You're much better with people than I am." Hope smiled at him. "Well, then we compliment each other, don't we?" Now he knew he was blushing. "I guess we do." Okay, so as the reader, I'm obviously trying to figure out whether or not, like, Hope would date Jeremiah if he asked her out. And this is the point that made me think that she probably would say yes, because that was very flirty of her. Ladies, would you tell a guy you're not interested in that you're very compatible with him as he's staring into your eyes and blushing? Because, if the answer is yes, that's insane. Jeremiah meets with his two friends, Ty and Matt, who are both in relationships. Matt is married and actually has a kid. Jeremiah tells both of them about Hope. They tell him to ask her out and deal with any consequences that might come if she turns him down later. He goes to work the next day. He psychs himself up to ask out Hope, but when he arrives, Parker suggests that they have Hope test the new VR game. She'll be playing it in their little demonstration testing room, and he, Parker, will be in the room with her helping her. They need Jeremiah to be in the other room on the actual computer, watching the gameplay to take notes and, like, fix bugs and stuff. This upsets Jeremiah, because instead of him being alone with Hope, now Parker is going to be alone with Hope in a dark room all day, and he's going to be the odd one out. Parker also calls Hope Hopi. This angers Jeremiah. He felt sick. Every couple of minutes he heard a stray chuckle coming from the testing room. The intimate-sounding laughter made his mind go places he didn't want it to go. "Stop it," he ordered himself. "They're playing the game, that's all. Of course they're laughing. People tend to laugh after a good jump scare." But then the what-ifs started. What if they're not playing the game? What if they're laughing because they're flirting with each other? What if it's more than flirting? What if his greasy mouth is pressed up against her petal-like lips? What if his slimy paw is stroking her wavy, lustrous hair? The more Jeremiah didn't want to picture these things, the more he saw them. By the time Parker and Hope emerged laughing and disheveled from the testing room, Jeremiah was a shaky, sweaty mess. "You know what?" he said. "I may go home. I think I've picked up a little bug or something." "You look a little gray," Hope said, sounding concerned. "I feel it," Jeremiah said. "Wow, you must," Parker added. "You never miss work." "I know." Jeremiah was already on his feet and putting on his jacket. "But I just can't be here." "Well, rest up so you can be sure to come in tomorrow," Parker said. The last thing he saw before closing the door was Hope, biting her lower lip like she did when she was excited about something. Oh my god, Jeremiah! No, you poor man! This is horrible. I don't know why him thinking going home is the preferred action here, but good god, Ellie Cooper, ending the section with her, like, biting her lip with excitement is such a horrendous chapter break. Oh my lordy. I'm sure that it's gonna turn out that she's helping Parker set up a prank to prank Jeremiah the next day. But just the indication, the implication that they could possibly be hooking up, and that they're only going to be able to now actually hook up because he's leaving for the day, is horrible. Why would you leave us like this, Ellie? Lying in bed, Jeremiah couldn't imagine a time in his life when he wouldn't be alone. And then he remembered something that, under the present circumstances, made him even more miserable. Tomorrow was his birthday. I can't even read that without, like, laughing at the end. Poor guy. He goes to work the next day. There's a big banner in the office that says, "Happy birthday, Jeremiah." He's actually really happy that Hope remembered his birthday. There's a cake waiting for him in the employee room. He looks around for Parker and Hope, expecting them to be there for the party, but they're not there. He then assumes that they're going to jump out. It's a surprise party. But they're nowhere to be found. Then the loudspeaker crackles on. It takes on a deep and electronic voice, like when you're trying to hide someone's identity. The voice tells Jeremiah that he's taken Hope and Parker hostage, and that Jeremiah can either leave, escape with his own life, and they'll die, or he can play a game and save them. Also, if he calls the cops, they'll die too. Jeremiah doesn't buy this for a second. He obviously thinks that it's Parker. To win this game, to beat Parker and impress Hope, he had to turn himself into a combination of an action hero and a sharp-minded detective. So he plays along in order to impress Hope. The voice tells him that the first clue is Stinger Moot. Jeremiah says that doesn't mean anything, and the voice tells him it's an anagram. He unscrambles it to testing room. Inside the testing room is a jewelry box. He opens it and it's full of human teeth. The book specifically notes that some of them are baby teeth, so since the story is constantly operating on two levels, one in which this is obviously Parker, and one in which, ooh, it's real. Which one is it? We're not gonna know. Obviously right now Jeremiah thinks it's Parker, but what if the twist is that it was real the whole time? So it has to keep up basically both of those options being equally as likely. So having real bloody teeth is points in the direction that it's a real kidnapping, and some of them being baby teeth is points in the direction that it's a prank because everyone has baby teeth just lying around their house and it would have been easy for Parker to get. There's a riddle inside the box. Sink your teeth into this clue, Jeremiah. Give me one and I'll make more, each one like the one before. What am I? I decided to stop reading at this moment, pull up my Google Drive doc that I'm writing the script on, and try to solve this riddle for myself, because I wanted to prove that I could do it. I figured it out before I could even open Google. It's a photocopier. You put one in, and then it makes more that are like, it's a photocopier. Jeremiah also figures this out instantly. The voice on the loudspeaker declares that he only has 20 minutes left to find them. He started with 30, meaning that it took 10 minutes for him to unscramble the acronym, walk into the testing room, open the box, and then read the clue. Next to the copy machine is a cup full of fingernails. At the bottom of this cup is another clue. Your next clue contains even more frights. To get there, you just need to follow the lights. Okay, I'm kind of mad. So the first clue is formatted like this. The second one is formatted like this. They're both rhyming riddles, so I don't understand why one of them is a larger font size and it's separated. There's an indent between it and the prose before and after it, and there's a line break after each of the lines, right, to help them rhyme like a real poem. Whereas the other one is embedded in the middle of a paragraph. Instead of having a line break, there's just a slash to denote an in-universe line break, and it's not a larger font size. I don't understand why they'd be formatted differently in the same book. Fetch had the same problem, where sometimes a text message would come through with, like, the UI of a cell phone, like, within its own bubble, and then sometimes it would come through and it would just be embedded in the middle of a paragraph. I don't know why you do it two different ways, one page apart from each other. It's kind of lame. Also, following string lights is not a riddle. All he has to do is follow string lights. In fact, from here to the end, each clue is just like, follow the string lights. I'm Ellie Cooper, and I didn't want to come up with any more puns. This also apparently took 10 more minutes. He's 2/3 of the way through his allotted time already. He follows the string of lights. He enters a room with 3 hyper-realistic eyeballs in it. Now, apparently, Jeremiah thinks they are actually real eyeballs. He remembers that they're in the same building as some sort of medical lab, and so he thinks that Parker went up there and bought eyeballs from them. The next clue is to just keep following the lights. He finds a present at the end of the light. Inside are human fingers. One of them is wearing Hope's ring. He actually vomits. It's so disgusting. Then he looks closer at the finger with Hope's ring on it, and he realizes that it's not her finger because he knows her finger really, really well. He follows the next clue and ends up in a room where there's a big box that has holes in it for you to stick your arms into, but you can't see inside. He has to rummage around and find a key inside. It's like those Halloween parties where you put your hand into a blind box and, like, there's a cactus or something on the other end and you touch it and you're like, oh my god, it's a monster! There's just like some peanut butter inside and you touch it and your mind goes wild. You're like, this is the worst thing I've ever imagined. So he's feeling around inside and he thinks they're actual human intestines. He tries to rationalize, like, oh, maybe they're cow intestines from the butcher. Or, oh, maybe they are human intestines, but he got it from the medical shop. Either way, it's just like a Halloween game, and I don't think there's anything stopping him from just opening the box, because it's like a life or death situation. He gets the key, he goes to the next room, he's really mad. The man on the loudspeaker is like, you don't have much time left to save your friends, and he's like, you know what, Parker? You're not my friend. He's fed up with Parker's shenanigans. He goes into the room, uses a key to open the door, finds a box inside, opens it, and inside is Parker's skinned face. They tore Parker's face off of his skull and put it inside of this box. You still think this is Parker? The distorted voice on the loudspeaker said. No, Jeremiah said, surprised to hear the sob in his voice. No, Parker's right here. He then tries to escape the building, but every single door in the office is locked. He cannot get out. The elevator doesn't work, he can't escape out the ground level, he tries every single door in the building, and then discovers that one of the other floors that's not currently being rented out is open, so he goes onto that floor. He enters into the final room, where there's a TV with a VCR. He inserts a VHS into the VCR, and this is how the story ends. I swear this is not one of my fake outs. I'm not going to read this and then say, like, oh, actually, I lied, there's more. No, This is the actual end of the story. This is not me being a prankster. So he puts the VHS into the VCR, and then the TV turns on. Surprise, Hope said, laughing in her soft, tinkly way. Gotcha, Parker said. Got you good this time. Oh, and he looked over at Hope. Happy birthday, the two of them yelled together. I hope you appreciate all our efforts, Jeremiah, Hope said. It was a lot of work putting all this together, even though it was totally worth it. I never thought we'd get it put together in time, Parker said. Between setting up the motion sensors and the loudspeaker? But it couldn't have gone better, could it? Hope said, flashing her familiar, sweet-looking smile. Jeremiah didn't recognize the room in which Hope and Parker had been filmed. It was too dark to make out much of the setting. However, he could discern what was on the table at which they stood. The kind of sharp kitchen scissors used for boning meat, a variety of knives ranging in size from a small scalpel to a huge cleaver. It was perfect, Parker said to Hope. Then he turned to face the camera. But now that you've had your birthday surprise, there's a good chance that Hope and I need to get to a hospital. He grinned like a game show host. I bet we do, Hope said, laughing. The smile faded from Parker's face. Okay, Parker, he yelled into the camera. He's ready, give us a knock. Knock, knock. At first, Jeremiah thought the knocking was coming from the videotape, but then he realized the source of the noise was a supply closet a few feet away from him. Something, was knocking very low on the closet door from the inside. Without even thinking about it, Jeremiah started backing out of the room, though his gaze was still fixed on the TV screen. Now, if you'll excuse us, the Parker on the video said, Hope and I have some work to do. Parker leaned over toward the camera. He was holding a big pair of pliers, which he opened and closed menacingly. Then let out his trademark hee. The screen went black. Jeremiah stood, frozen in confusion and terror, as the supply closet door slowly inched open. Analysis. Guys, I hated this. This was incredibly stupid. Does anybody like this? Like, genuinely, are there any defenders of Prankster? Either they actually cut off their fingers and peeled off his face and got their intestines out, blah, blah, blah. Or the ending of the videotape was just another prank. So the door's going to open and Jeremiah is like, oh no, are they disfigured? Did they actually hurt themselves? And then they're going to pop out and be like, haha, tricked you again. The Parker man tricked me again. Either answer is better than the stupid cliffhanger that we got. There's also not even any, like, Freddy stuff in the story, except for the fact that they are working on a Freddy's VR game. You could take out Freddy's and nothing about this would change. Did the VR game infect him and make him cut off his face? Ooh. Okay, so in FNAF VR and HR, like the real video games, we learn of an employee named Jeremy, who is working on Help Wanted, which is a VR game, and he cuts his face off because he got infected by Glitch Trap. Except that's actually a misnomer. He did not actually get his face chopped off. He chopped off a Vanny mask that was on his face. So I do see the link here between this story about Jeremiah and that story about Jeremy and them working for a VR company and someone's face getting taken off, except for not really, because, like, it can't really have been Parker's real face. And also, Jeremy and Jeremiah don't fulfill the same role. Parker would fulfill the Jeremy role. I genuinely don't think the story is saying anything. It brings up Jeremiah as someone who's envious of Hope, envious of people being with Hope. He's jealous. He's envious and jealous. But those things are not commented on in the second half of the story or the climax at all. It doesn't say, and then Jeremiah learned to not be so possessive. Or, and then Jeremiah learned to stand up to Parker. It doesn't say anything. Actually, if anything, it doubles down that him being obsessed with Hope is a good thing, because that was his motivation to continue on to save them. If he had said, you know what, Hope, if you want Parker so bad, I'm not even going to save you anymore, and then left, and the two of them did actually, like, cut off their fingers in the closet, they would have ended up bleeding to death, which would have at least been a story. That would have at least said something. This says nothing, because we don't know what the ending is. I don't get it. It was written okay in the first half. It was very unpleasant to read, but that's also the point. But then the story just totally falls apart. Does anybody in the comments think this has anything to say? Did anyone actually, like, get anything out of reading this book? What's the back cover say? Standing up for yourself can be hard. Even the most well-meaning actions can reap horrible consequences. What are the horrible consequences? There are no horrible consequences. And yes, standing up for yourself can be hard. But what does Jeremiah do? He says, Parker, you're not my real friend. What's the fallout of that? Is Parker like, you didn't mean that, buddy? Or is he like, oh, I didn't know that you felt that way? I don't know, because the story doesn't have an ending. Now we have to talk about Stinger Moot. The first clue in the puzzle is Stinger Moot. Stinger Moot means absolutely nothing. Please, for the love of God, stop saying it means something. Some people have taken this to be a clue that the Stitch Wraith Stingers are moot. Moot is a word that has two exact opposite definitions. Basically, moots were like a debate forum people would go to in medieval times to talk about issues. There's actually moots in Game of Thrones, to bring that back. So if someone said something to you while you're fishing, you could go, hold on, that's a moot point, as in, that's too complicated for us to talk about right now. We will reconvene this conversation during the next moot, during the next conversation in which we're debating complex topics. Your moot point is something interesting that we need to discuss later. It evolved to mean something that can just be dismissed. Nowadays, if someone calls something a moot point, they're basically saying, why are you bringing that up? That's a moot point. As in, I'm not going to discuss this with you. It can just be ignored. So it went from, that's a topic that we should schedule a debate about, to, that's not even worth discussing. So even if this is supposed to be a hint about the Stitch Wraith stingers, because the phrase is stinger moot, we don't know which definition of the word moot it's using, so it doesn't tell us anything about the stingers. Stinger is also just a word. It's also an anagram of testing room. Did Ellie write a testing room into the story so that she could use Stinger Moot as a clue, or so that Scott could tell her to use Stinger Moot as a clue to the fact that the Stitch Wraith stingers are moot, as in they don't matter? I doubt it. Right before the finale, right before the final epilogue, why would Scott have instructed her to write in that the Stitch line doesn't matter? He wouldn't. This is an insane theory. Fritz fiction-wise, there's nothing. Moving on. That was Prankster. Thankfully, it was the shortest Fright story, because it's garbage. Next up is Kids at Play. Thank you for watching. Be sure to be nice to each other in the comments. Consider supporting the creators you admire. Never lose sight of the things that are important to you. And remember, Freddy stands for Friendly, Respectful Engagement, Discussion, and Discourse Yield Success. I would like to thank my August patrons: Brandon, Lauren V, Morgan, Nan, Scott, Sophie, Suka, and Wooly, as well as Billy, Chamikon, Klaus, Kopacker Fan, Eliza, Halmar, Johnny the Night Guard, Kira, Lauren R, Rose, Sebhar, Thamagata, World's Greatest Bard, Your Boy Peachy, Zany Face, and Zimmy, as well as Courtney, Emily, Gremlin, HHD, Jinx, Jose, Mustard Shirt Guy, Rolo, and Riley, as well as Ellie, Jojo, Mariuna, and Ray. I would also like to thank my YouTube members. Those who made it to night 1: Lydia, Pickle Pepper 900, Hyperdroid, Spark Saturn, Sleepy, Nolan, Arcadeus, Toolshed Inc., Liz, Violet Poppy, Haley, Sophie, Poppy, Theory Chum, Riley, JT Kelly 18, Golden Productions, Louie, and Jackie. Those who made it to night 2, Mrs. Trap and Your Boy Peachy. Those who made it to night 3, Crimson Dragonfly 07, The Moving Marker, iBlue Renditional W, and Just Because. Those who made it to night 4, He-Boy, Amy Oh My, iShrine, Mach CXII, Moon Knight, Big Fat Liar, Squix, Psalm, Uncle T, Vice, 4, Marcel, Harrison, I messed that up, we're just gonna keep going with it, Joshua, Best as Xerxes, Mush Tomb Official, Master Puppet 13, Luke, Capricornus Sage, The Joran Identity, Zaxxon, Fazbear Entertainment, and Icemint. And those who made it to night 5, Momo Peaches and Suka.